Hello and welcome. As some of my viewers in the comments have requested that they would like to see some 4K gameplay on an external monitor hooked up to some of these latest laptops that are powered with the RTX 4090. In this case, I'm demoing for you. This is the HP Omen 17 laptop that I've just recently reviewed on my channel. Please go and check out that video. And here I've got it hooked up over HDMI. This is not HDMI 2.1, just standard 2.0 to this 4K monitor that I have here. This is a 4K 60 Hz 27-inch monitor, a couple of years old, has just FreeSync basic functionality. So if you do see some screen tearing, I guarantee you it's not the laptop, it's the actual monitor itself. But this is all I've got available at the moment. So we're going to be running in performance mode on the Omen 17. I've got fans cranked up to maximum, and we're going to fire up Hogwarts Legacy here since this is one of the most demanding games of the year. Now we're going to be testing without ray tracing. All right, let's hop in and have a look at the settings. Let's turn off our stats first. Go to settings here, and we'll start with the display option. So you can see here it's a 4K monitor running at 67% scaling, almost exactly 1440p being scaled up to 4K resolution using DLSS in quality mode. For the moment, I've got frame generation turned off, but reflex low latency is on with boost enabled, and I've uncapped the frame rate so that we don't get more screen tearing if the frame rate falls below 60 FPS. And for the moment, I've got all of the ray tracing stuff disabled. Otherwise, this is a very poor showing for this game, and no fault of the monitor or the GPU. So I want to give it a fair chance here. So let's go. Here we are. All right, so now we'll turn on our screen display. And as you can see here, I'm in Hogsmeade. So this particular area is quite taxing, particularly at night, because you've got all the lights, the reflections, the shadows, lots of textures to load, people walking around during the daytime. It can be even a different taxing test. But you can see here that the HP Omen 17 is pushing right up there, 160, 170, close to 170 watts. I would say it's tuned down about 5-ish watts, maybe than the max, like less than the max 175 watts that's promised. But this is very, very exceptional performance. As you can see here, I'm getting 85 frames per second. And what's more important is that frame time is really down there. Like it's in the single digits most of the time, barely creeping up into the teens. So it's very, very stable, excellent frame rates here. And I think this is very, very playable game. As you can see here that the CPU also is around 4 gigahertz, roughly around 60 to 65 watts. It's hovering in that figure mark. And that means we're pushing all of the frames that we can generate right over to this display without having any issues with the RTX 4090. So I think that's a pretty good test here. Let me just jump in for the moment. I will enable for you guys the frame generation, and we'll see what extra boost that gives us, because this is one of the highly touted tech of 2023 in the RTX 4000 series, which is basically similar to a black frame insertion, except that you double the frame rate by GPU generated frames. And thus far, I've had a very good experience with this. As you can see here, we're now in the triple digits over HDMI 4K out to this 4K display here from the HP Omen 17, tucked in and away under the monitor here. This is very, very impressive performance. The 4090 has performance for days. I'm sure you could get similar levels of performance with the 4080. Maybe just 10%, 15% less, or perhaps 20% max in certain games, but 10 to 15% less for hundreds of dollars left often is a fantastic value in my opinion. So unless you're ready to go balls out, walls out with your wallet here, then maybe you should be looking at a 4080 because you'll get still excellent performance here. So here we are, doing still fantastic, 170 watts there. I saw 173. And we're looking at 100 frames per second. Absolutely fantastic gameplay experience with this. And yeah, so I think that's all there is to say about that. All right, for the next test, here we are. This is Cyberpunk 2077. So we've got 4K resolution here. HDR is off. Low latency is turned on. And no other VSync or any other issues are turned on here. So what we'll do is we'll crank this all the way up to the ray tracing overdrive, which basically turns on ray tracing as well as path tracing. One other quick fix I like to do is, because this likes to put it in DLSS auto resolution, I like to change it to quality just to get a little bit better visual fidelity, and our frame generation tech is turned on here. So we'll just run this benchmark and you guys can see what the performance of this this setup is like. So you can have a carry away machine that's fantastic and powerful. You can come back, dock it to your desk, and have an absolutely stunning gameplay experience. So here we go. So right away we observe here that the GPU in the Omen 17 kicks right up there to 165 watts, getting close to that 170. And we're getting about 40s, mid 40s to high 40s frames per second in this game as we're running the benchmark. I am seeing some screen tearing, but please excuse that. It's due to the monitor and the display I have here. This is a couple of years old, basic LG 4K 27-inch display with 60 hertz only, and it has the most basic FreeSync functionality. So it's not the best monitor at all for gaming or even for a lot of action-packed content consumption. So please excuse the screen tearing. That is not the fault of the GPU. It's this display. And we're hitting now 170 watts here and there. I do see it peak well above 170 watts. So it does hit that for moments. But the consistent performance is somewhere between 155 to 170 watts, I would say. Or maybe 165 watts. Depends on the particular scene we're in and what's happening. You can see here right at around 50 frames per second. And very, very playable frame rates. This is one of the most demanding games. So this is an excellent showing. And here we are. So if we turn off our stats here, we've got an average frame rate of 54 frames per second with a minimum at 28 and maxing out at 86 frames per second. Very, very playable. If you turn it down a bit, you can have a locked 60 FPS experience with your laptop here. One other thing I want to demonstrate is how well these GPUs perform in eco mode. So I'm going to toggle eco mode here, which basically will throttle the power way down on the 4090 GPU, but you'll get essentially a silent machine. So we'll return back to the settings here. We'll repeat the exact same benchmark once more. Benchmark starts here. I'll pop right up the stats, and we can see here we're now at around 120 watts. So with this setting, we're now dropping down into the high 30s, close to 40 FPS, but because the internal display on the laptop is a G-Sync display, and this monitor is not, you are going to see a little bit of screen tearing or stuttering. If you have a G-Sync capable display, it's going to be smooth as butter. This is very, very playable at 115 watts. Quite impressive, actually, with the 4090. So if you're looking for a quiet, silent, carry-away machine that you can come back and dock and just have a blast gaming experience, pretty much with anything you could throw at it, the 4090 is definitely the way to go. Yeah, right around 115 watts. It drops down a little, maybe just a few watts, but it's very, very consistent and stable at this mode, and the fans are absolutely silent. I hear nothing at ear level. So in some parts, it hits 50 frames per second. I'd love to see what the total stats are here once the benchmark is done. All right, so here we go. We're at 43 average, min of 23, and maxing out at around 65. So very, very playable gameplay experience with a silent machine, no fans, tucked away under your monitor. This is absolutely fantastic. Thanks for watching.